Luke, today we're talking about Officer and particularly the fact that it's a new and growing area and you've had to establish all sorts of connection ministries. How do you begin by connecting where there might not actually be a community to connect with?
Yeah, so I guess a lot of people would see that as a disadvantage, but I see it as an advantage because one of the things I'm excited about is as a church we're growing up with the community. And so from the very start of a community you've got a chance to kind of meet people and connect with people, and so at Follow we've got a great connection with the local council, and so from that connection ministries are birthed because there's needs that are needing to be met in the community. There's a lot of people but not a heap of infrastructure, and so I think that's a real void for the church to come in and actually provide some of that. So that's been a great opportunity for us.
So what sort of ministries have you started to connect to the community?
Yeah, so we've got a few main ministries. So one is a breakfast club. So we started that just before we began as a church. And so at a local secondary college, which was just starting in the very first year, we were able to get in there and start a breakfast club. So every Tuesday morning we go in there bright and early, we cook pancakes, we set up tables and chairs, and we have some games on the tables. So it's a chance to sit with the kids, get to know them, build relationship, connect, and hopefully see a bridge built between the school and the youth group for a start, and then eventually church. So we're really, I guess, blessed to be in a school that love us being there, and they're really keen for us to build that bridge. And so just last week we put in a full-time chaplain at the school, and so we're really excited about where that's going to go in the next couple of years.
You've also done some ministry to connect with socioeconomically challenged people.
Yeah, so we've got a food van. So every Tuesday and Thursday night at Pakenham Station, which is the next station from Officer, there's a park there that's pretty notorious for drugs and alcohol and violence and even a little bit of prostitution. And so in conversations with the council, they said there's a real need there with homelessness and poverty and isolation. And so we had an opportunity to go there and start a ministry. So every Tuesday and Thursday night we have a big truck, we drive down there, we set up gazebo and tent and tables and chairs and barbecues, and we've got 4 chefs, and so we prepare food and we call it a place of food and friendship. We've also connected with Orange Sky, and they do portable laundry, so they've got washing machines and dryers, and then another organisation called Cleaners Casper, and they've got a portable shower. And so on the Tuesday night particularly we create a real community hub there, and on the Thursday night it's just us there as a church. But that's been really great. One of the great joys is I was talking to the guy from Neighbourhood Watch about something else just recently, and he heard that I oversee the van there, and he said, from my perspective, in the 6 months since you've been there, the park's become a much more safe place. And even the council have jumped on board now, so they're starting to upgrade the park. So they put down like a concrete path for us, and they put up floodlights and all those sorts of things because they see the value in what we're doing. So it's been really great to connect with some of those really vulnerable people. Just last week on Facebook we have a local crime page, and someone on the crime page had posted a comment, what happens at the station on Tuesday and Thursday night? Then we had about 60 comments, and I didn't know any of the people commenting, but just all so positive about the work that's going on there. And one young guy said, if it wasn't for those guys, I don't think I'd be alive now. And for me, just the power of the gospel in those really dark places, it brightly shines. And so it's a real joy to journey with those people. And we've seen half a dozen of them come to know the Lord now. We've baptised a couple of them at church, and they've now connected as part of a community where it's broken that cycle of isolation. And so, it's a real joy.
These all sound very much like very resource-intensive ministries. How do you go about resourcing them?
Yeah, well, just yesterday we looked at the finances, and it's cost us over $50,000 so far for that project. So that's buying a truck and getting all the equipment and all that sort of stuff. So a lot of it's funded by our church, particularly the week-to-week stuff. But we've also sourced some grants from from Bapcare and from local council and different places like that. So so far we've been able to cover most of the stuff that we've spent. I just had a local building company ring me last week, and he started by saying, we've heard about what you do and we want to raise money for you. So that's a great phone call to get at the end of the day. And so yesterday I put a proposal together, and they've just committed to $10,500 to pay for food for the next 12 months. So it's one of those things the community have really got on board. And so because it's a ministry that's making a difference, people are willing to financially help out, so it's been great.
It's not just dollars though, is it? It's actually the people who also have to do the work. How do you keep your church inspired? Do they stay inspired or do they feel sometimes worn out?
Yeah, definitely both. I think it's one of those ministries, when you see the results and you hear people's testimonies, it's incredibly energising, and you think all the hard work, rain, hail or shine, every Tuesday and Thursday night of the year, it's worth it when you see one person go through the waters of baptism or give their life to the Lord. So it's really energising in that regard. And also I think our church has grown because people are really excited about that kind of ministry. I guess I believe that the Christian world is a bit like a dormant army, and they want to do something but they don't know where to start. So if you can provide opportunities, they really want to do that. So that's been really energising, but it is a big job, you know. So it started off with just the church volunteers, and that's probably not sustainable long term. But we've run 2 training nights now with the local council, and so we've just put a whole lot of community volunteers into the program. So we've got about 90 volunteers now on a regular roster. So managing that's difficult. So we're just about to put someone on 2 days a week to manage the project for us. So it sort of got to that stage pretty quickly. But we want to be there for the long run. So we're trying to put structures in place to make sure that it is sustainable.
We know that you have your eye on eternity, not just on dealing with the problems of today. So how do you stop a social ministry overwhelming that overall goal?
I think you've got to be really clear on your vision, and I think you've got to be really transparent about your vision. And so, for example, when we got a grant from the council, that was $5,000, but I had to sit down with them beforehand and say, we're a church, we pray before we minister each night. And I said, we're not on a soapbox there yelling and screaming at people, but our best case scenario is that people ask us about Christianity. And when they do, we need to be really honest about that. We're actually going to share our faith with them. And the best case scenario is that they'll actually connect with our church community and break that cycle of isolation. So I think when you're honest about it and transparent about it, I've found people to be really open to that and tend to respect it. So even in our training nights with our community volunteers, we make it clear that at the start of every night we gather and pray. And it's 5-minute prayer, it's not a 4-hour prayer meeting. But we just make it clear to our volunteers that we don't expect you to be involved in that. You're welcome to be, but we do ask that you respect it. And so, yeah, I think just being really clear on what your vision is, and if there's money coming with strings attached, then we won't take the money, because we're there for, like you said, an eternal perspective to see people saved and transformed by the love of Christ. So,
Luke, thanks very much for your time.